Hey everyone, and welcome to another live Q&A. Let me get over to the questions page and set off the sound so it doesn't blast in my ear, because I have earphones on now, so it shouldn't cause you guys problems. But anyway, the questions are beginning to pop in. Johnny D is already beginning to ask questions. The viewers should begin rolling in momentarily. Hopefully you all can hear me. I know there's been problems with the fucking mic in the past, so I want to make sure you guys can hear me. But just to start off, welcome to the Q&A. This is the public Q&A. There will be another public Q&A on the 4th of March. I'm saying this for the new viewers. I do these every other Sunday when it comes to the public Q&As. I do the private Q&As for patron members, which you can sign up for. My link for patrons down below on the off Sundays between. So patron members get Q&As every Sunday, and they're a lot more raw and uncensored too. Also, you'll notice below too that I have a President's Day sale going on with my ebooks too. Feel free to check those out. It's going to expire in a day, so I want to bring that to your attention also. So let's get over to the questions to see what's coming, because I know they've already begun rolling in. Johnny D asks how to stop night emissions. I don't think I don't think you can stop night emissions. I mean, the body's going to release what the body's going to release. I don't think you have any control over that. I mean, what are you, a teenager? Are you having them excessively? I mean, I don't know. Maybe, are you doing no FAP or something? That might be the reason why you're emitting so much at night. If you're not having sex or masturbating, and therefore ejaculating during the day, you're probably going to end up doing that more at night. I'm not a doctor, so that's just my educated guess. From what I understand from observation and I guess from experience, that you know, the more sexually active you are, you're not going to have a lot of night emissions. Also, your thoughts on NoFap. Does masturbation lower testosterone? Actually, they found that sex and not masturbation, but sex actually raises testosterone. Now, for whatever reason, masturbation doesn't affect testosterone the same way that sex does. It could be because the body is more stimulated with a partner. But I've done videos on this in the past. They found that there are higher testosterone levels among men who are having frequent sex. As for NoFap, you can actually, by not ejaculating, there's research that shows you can raise testosterone levels, but it's not going to give you steroid-like results. And what seemed to happen was, after 2 weeks, while the testosterone levels steadily increased during those 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, it just plateaued. There were no further benefits to testosterone. It didn't just keep increasing after going longer than 2 weeks without ejaculating. And it was specifically not ejaculating, so I don't know if these people were like, masturbating to the point of ejaculating than not ejaculating, or what was done. All I know is that there was no ejaculation, manual or sexual, with the men during that period, and that's what the results were. So I really I don't see any long-term benefits to NoFap in that regard, testosterone wise. So, and certainly the amount of testosterone that it increases is not anything that's going to give you steroid-like results. So if you think you're going to get better results in the gym by not masturbating, that's not the case. It's not. There's no evidence to show that that's the case. So let me go to the next question. I don't even know how to pronounce your name. He's a Brazilian viewer of mine. Tretador. He says, hi, dude. Hi back to you. Noid X, maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong, asks, how long does it take for optimal muscle gain training 5 days a week? Well, I mean, it really depends on how you're training. Are you training 5 days a week in a body part split? Are you training 5 days a week where you're hitting everything at least twice per week? Maybe something's getting a third day because you're doing 5. Because usually I think like push pull, and that includes legs in there as well. Depending on the push or the pull, like, deadlifts would be on pull day, squats would be on push day, or you can do upper lower, which is what I tend to do. That will actually optimize muscle growth a bit more than, I mean, it's not a significant amount more, but it's a bit more than doing a bro split. But it's enough that you're going to get, for a natural, that extra 2 to 7% of muscle gain. That's better than nothing. I mean, you take everything you can get as a natural, because you're not on steroids. They're just going to give it to you so easily. Well, with it, you still have to work for them, but you know, easier. You're going to get gains faster on gear. In other words, it depends and on what how your training is set up. But I mean, you'll see a big change in your body in just 3 months. You'll see an even bigger change by the 6 month period, and most people by the year period will look completely different than they did a year prior. If you play your cards right, you can gain between 10 and 20 pounds of muscle in that first year, but you have to do things properly. And also genetics plays a role too. You know, some people will gain more than others. In my first year, I think I gained somewhere between 18 and 20 pounds. It was of muscle. It was a pretty good year. And then of course shit gets worse after that. You know, it just goes downhill. Like the next year was like around 10 pounds, and the next year was like around 5, and then it just was basically unmeasurable at that point from there on out. Like, you know, it almost feels like I'm staying the same, but when I look at photographs, there are differences. You know, for instance, I look at a photo from 2013 versus now, even though that was past my beginner stage, there are differences. I look bigger than I did. People who didn't see me in that span of time suddenly saw me and said I'm bigger than I was when they last saw me. So it does there is a diminishing return, but you can expect to look different by 3 months, you know, but you got to be consistent. You got to run a good program. You got to eat well. Let's see here. Charlie asks, what men's lotions do I recommend? I use a vitamin E cream on my face. I also use a vitamin C cream on my face. These are recommended by PETA. Actually, they're vegan products. It's the C cream is a Jason product. No, the E cream is a Jason product. The C cream is an Avalon Organics. And I also have a night cream that I use under my eyes because I'm not as young as I was anymore. So I take care of that to kind of prevent wrinkles. I also do it's not just from the outside. Keep in mind, guys, it's not just what creams you can put on your face or body, to prevent dry skin or aging. It's also about what you do on the inside. Your diet really matters. Exercise really matters. Taking care of yourself, not smoking, not drinking. These things really matter. So it actually works from the inside out, but you can do things on the outside that can like give you that little edge, I guess. Kind of like the same way of like, supplementing creatine gives you a bit of an edge, but a bit of an edge. It's a bit of an edge. It's not the main battle. Moving along. Let's see here. Does strength training improve power output regarding fighting? Yes. I've noticed this. There has been research on this. I should do more videos on this, but I've done videos already on like jumping, kicking from squats and hip thrusts, for instance, and lunges, and their effect on things like kicking power and jumping power and jumping height. People seem to be under the impression that lifting weights as you get bigger is going to make you slower and less flexible. That's from my personal experience, that hasn't been the case. And from people I know and things I've read, other people have had the same experience where that hasn't been the case. I guess they assume that bigger, bulkier muscles are going to be slower, but it depends on how you train. Really, you can train explosively in the gym, and that will translate over to your fighting and to your sports and athletics. This is why I recommend the hip thrust so heavily now, because the hip thrust works the glutes directly, and the glutes are a very athletic muscle. They will enhance your kicks, enhance your running, enhance your jumping. They enhance your other lifts. Like stronger glutes can enhance getting, driving out of the hole in a squat. They can enhance the lockout in a deadlift. These are great examples of having powerful glutes. And besides, guys, let's face it, we look at women's asses. We do, but women look at guys' asses. So, that is a high-rated body part for women. So, it also has aesthetic appeal. Let's just be real here. So train your glutes and strength train. Yes, if you are an athlete, strength train. It will benefit your sport. So cross train. Is it fine not to supplement DHA as a vegan? You can. Your body will convert ALA, but it's an inefficient process. So whether that's fine for you, some people are better at the conversion genetically than others. Indians, since a lot of them come from a long line of vegetarians, it has been found that a lot more Indians genetically are more prone to being able to convert the ALA to a DHA faster and more readily. And this was studied in research, actually. So generational vegetarians, generational vegans would have a better ALA conversion rate. But if you're a little newer to the game, you might want to throw in some like algae supplement of some sort. I use an algae supplement. It costs me about $20 and it lasts me a month. And it gives me, just enough DHA and EPA for my daily needs as an active person in just a couple veggie tablets. Or they're caps. I guess they're more gel caps rather, but they're vegetable based. They're not gelatin. And then of course take ALA on top of that, like just a tablespoon of flax seeds. You grind them up, put them over like a salad or something would work. Can you give us some legit sources on lifting weights and plant-based diets, please? I'm not sure what you mean by legit sources on lifting weights and plant-based diets. You mean a study on people who lifted weights and were following a plant-based diet? I don't think such a thing exists. But we have research that shows that vegans have higher testosterone, at least slightly higher testosterone than meat eaters, and that's based on large cohort. If you get enough fat in your diet, regardless of whether you're vegan or not, you'll have optimized testosterone levels. Make sure you get enough of the vitamins you need. Make sure you're strength training. But, I don't see, there's no evidence. There's anecdotal evidence to support that vegans can obviously build muscle and build strength and can be competitive, etc. I mean, we have Olympian vegans. We have strongman vegans. We have powerlifting vegans. We have bodybuilding vegans. We have vegans in various sports like football, etc. So there's anecdotal evidence that, that vegans can do competitive sports just as well as meat eaters. But I don't think there's any kind of study yet on, specifically vegan athletes versus meat-based athletes or meat-consuming athletes, omnivores. I don't think anything like that exists that I'm aware of. We have things like a vegan keto diet versus a non-vegan diet and the results of that were in favor of the vegan keto diet, by the way. We have things like that, but we don't have anything that like that you're talking about, unfortunately. But the evidence that we do have doesn't support that vegans can't, be competitive. So let's see. Eric says, "What's up, Cory? A lot of people today, eh?" Well, 31 watching right now currently, but the videos, my Q&As tend to get up to about 800 when all is said and done. People who watch the playbacks. People are saying, Eric's saying to donate to my Patreon. And then Alfric says, "Nice beard gains, thanks." I'm just kind of growing my beard out to see where it will go at this point. I might let it get a little bit long and kind of big. I don't know yet. I'm sort of kind of going for that medieval Viking sort of look, medieval knight/Viking sort of look that you'd see like in a Lord of the Rings kind of movie or something. That's sort of what I'm going for, but I'll see what happens. I'm just going to kind of like play with it now and see where it goes and how I feel that it looks, basically. Noidex says, again, I might be pronouncing your name wrong. It's probably very wrong, but he says, "That's what I'm doing. Upper body, lower body. Thanks, man. No problem." Yeah, upper body, lower body. I love it. It's a great way to optimize your gains and get everything in at least twice a week. Now, beginners, you guys can just do full body. Do full body Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and really work on your big basics. But as you get more advanced and your body responds to higher volume per muscle group, it would be better to allow a little more room for a couple extra exercises per muscle group. That's why upper, lower, and push pull work so well. Okay, so Rotten Fuhrer says, "How serious are the anti-nutrient effects of soy on zinc, calcium, and protein? Soy yogurt is #1 source for those kinds of nutrients." They have done some studies on the anti-nutrients, like the trypsin inhibitors, for instance, that could be considered the anti-protein aspect of soy. First of all, bear in mind that soy protein, despite the trypsin inhibitors, it has one of the highest PDCAA scores that you can find. It's up there with eggs, with milk. It's even ahead of beef. So it's pretty potent. Like the protein in soy is bioavailable despite those inhibitors. Now, the evidence that exists on it shows that it's very minimal. Now you can avoid this by just getting like fermented or sprouted soy products. if you want to avoid it. But I used to worry myself over that until I saw that the research wasn't, all that wasn't all that detrimental. Really, it didn't have that much effect as long as you're getting enough protein per day, for instance, and you're getting enough of those vitamins and minerals from various sources per day. There was really no issue. It was very minuscule. It wasn't enough to have any kind of real effect. It's again an example, I think, of things that people sort of blow out of proportion, like or totally exaggerate on is probably the better way to put it. They'll take something like, for instance, something that lowers testosterone by like 2 or 3%, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, it's horrible for you." Or any you can insert any percent drop of something based on a food source. So I don't it's not a big deal. Just make sure you're getting enough of those sources from various foods. And this is why I also recommend that vegans get an extra 10% of protein beyond the recommended for by the ISSN if they're lifters recommended range, because it'll make up for any things like wheat gluten that might be less bioavailable, or beans that might be a little less bioavailable. But soy is highly bioavailable. What has helped my deadlift the most, says Nico Austin? I'd say squatting and hip thrusting, really, because I feel like that ever since doing more hip thrusts, I just lock out so hard at the top of my deadlift. Like I feel that I can really nail that lockout really hard. And with squatting, I feel like I can nail the breaking from the floor a lot better. And my weight is continually going up on the deadlift. And this brings me to my Upgraded Man program, which is the program that is based on research that is designed to help you start building your lifts up. That's the whole point of it. So that's where it differs from Beast Mode by Science, my actual other ebook that I have, which is more of an aesthetic program. Upgraded Man is more of an athletic program, but there is an aesthetic component, but it's much more athletically focused as opposed to trying to get you like big and ripped. This is just trying to get you big and athletic, basically, but not a fat slob either. So don't take that the wrong way. So Tradador, who says I said his name perfect. The English version is translator. Oh, okay. I try. Okay, and I don't speak Portuguese at all, and I speak very bad Spanish. So, I try my best. Hi, Cory. I work in front of a window. Should I consider wearing sunscreen? Yes. If you are exposed to the sun, even if you're just walking to work or walking to your car, I recommend everybody wear, at least a basic sunscreen. You can get, there's a vegan sunscreen I use. The brand is, something organics. Can't think of the name of it. Alba Organics, I believe it is. And it's like a sea moss scented, it comes in a kind of a teal green container sunscreen product, and it's a moisturizer / sunscreen. And it's actually really good for preventing any basic minor UV damage you might get if you're just going about your daily business. So I recommend anyone who's going to go outside, or especially if you're in front of a window all day, you put that on, because sun can age you. The UV light can age you, and if you want to look better longer, which can make your life more fulfilling, take care of yourself inside and out. Drew Iscariot says, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting versus regular eating for building muscle and losing fat at the same time, following a 6-day push-pull legs format versus eating every 2 hours? They've actually done a lean gain study. It was relatively recent, last couple of years, I believe it was. The 16, I think, is when it came out. And it actually did show that intermittent fasting was slightly superior in fat loss and muscle gain to a regular diet. So take that for what it is. It was one of the better controlled studies. There have been previous IF studies that weren't as well controlled, that were trying to test the lean gains model, but this one tested the lean gain 16-8 model and found that conclusion. It was pretty well controlled, about as well controlled as you can expect. I mean, like nothing can be really perfect. And there's a lot of research coming out showing that IF is going to be good for longevity, good for cancer fighting, anti-aging, etc. It does, for instance, one piece of research, and I covered this in a study a few years back, actually showed like I think it was a 1,000% increase or maybe it was 2,000% increase in growth hormone by doing like a 16-hour fast. So that was pretty significant. Now, growth hormone isn't so great for building muscle, but it can definitely help you with aging, help you with sleep and things like that. So, you know, we do release growth hormone when we sleep, and it gets less and less as we age. So once you get past like the age of 25, your growth hormone levels decline naturally. So finding ways to boost those up, you know, can help you maintain some degree of youthfulness. Now, I don't know how much research is on the topic, but I know that's why a lot of people who are getting older who have the money for it get growth hormone injections because they want to try to maintain youth. Are omega-3 supplements really a must? They seem overhyped. Omega-3s are a must. I mean, supplements, if you can get it from your diet, fine. Like you can get it from, like, for instance, vegans can get omega-3 ALA from flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, etc. But you need them. They are essential. They're essential fatty acids. Your body cannot produce those themselves, so you need to get omega-3s from your diet. So they are essential. Whether you want to supplement some DHA on top of the ALA you consume, it's up to you. Cory, what do you think about Sverige? I don't think much about Sverige, and I try not to watch Sverige. I am aware of some of his absurd comments. I'm also aware that he had a debate with Vegan Gains. I believe Isaac from Ask Yourself was involved in that debate. And as far as I'm aware, like, it didn't go so well for him, but because he's so deluded, he didn't see it that way. You know, I just kind of ignore Sverige. He's very anti-science. He's very woo, as they would call it, it seems. I just kind of ignore him. He seems nuts to me. Didn't he almost die from eating raw meat or something too? Or something along those lines? He got very sick from eating raw meat, almost died. I wouldn't follow the guy's advice, okay? Let's put it that way. How long do I pause between sets and exercises? It depends on the weight really that's being used. If I'm going really heavy, like 3 to 5 rep range, or God, even a 1 rep max, but typically between 3 and 5 reps, I'll rest between, you know, 2 to 5 minutes, you know, 5 tops, at least 2 minutes, no less than that. Or I won't hit my number as well the next set. If I'm doing like more moderate, like 6 to 12 reps, more like 6 to 10 reps, I'll rest about a minute, 2 minutes. And if I'm doing anything higher, like 12 or higher, I might rest about 30 seconds to 45 seconds tops. That's what I find has worked for me. And a lot of the research shows that as well. The lighter you're going, the less you really need to rest to recover from the previous set. So, you know, that's my general guidelines. And again, in my ebooks, I also have the guidelines based on the actual studies. You know, I try to keep it as close to the research as possible to try to get you guys to optimize your results. I don't like using my personal anecdote when I'm writing programs because I want to base it as much on research as possible and not on like, well, it worked for me. You know, that I hate it when people are like, well, do this because it worked for me. It's one thing to suggest something as like, hey, this worked for me, and say that clearly. But there are some people where it's like, well, you know, I think Simeon Panda's done this. Well, this is the diet you should eat. This is the exercise you should do because it worked for me. Well, great. Doesn't mean it's going to work for the next person, you know? That's why we need research. Your thoughts on all these people that are doing all meat diets? I think it's horrible for them. I mean, we have research showing that red meats are probable carcinogens, that processed meats are definitely carcinogens. And we have even a bigger body of research showing that heme iron-based foods are carcinogenic in the sense that they make you a higher risk for colorectal cancer. So I really don't think that these meat-based diets, they're horrible. But people, it sounds like a fad to me. People jump on these fucking fads all the time with no real evidence to support the fad they're getting themselves involved with. And you know, if anything, a lot of evidence showing that it's a bad idea, but they jump on it because some personality says, oh, this worked for me, you know, or he has some wild theory about why this is the optimal diet for human beings. And it's just, I've seen that so many times. And I mean, for instance, Atkins died. Didn't Atkins die of heart problems or something? The guy was, people do silly shit all the time. Do I get gas from eating soy products like soy milk or tofu? No, I haven't had that problem. I I sometimes will get, I'll sometimes get gas from eating a lot of like beans, but I've found that apparently draining them and rinsing them helps alleviate that to some degree. And so it might have been bubbles or air in the food, something along those lines. I don't know. Off topic. What are my views on healthcare? Like medicine, I don't have anything wrong with medicine. I don't advise going and taking drugs for things unless it's the last, basically your last resort. I'm not a fan of saying like, oh, you got a minor headache, go pop a Tylenol or an Advil. That's not the kind of person I am. However, I will pop an Advil if my headache is that brutal, where I can't sleep, where I can't think. When I've had a bad cold or a flu in the past where I just can't fucking sleep because it feels like somebody's like, hammering into my skull. Yeah, I'll pop a couple Advil because I need my sleep. So and if you have a condition where you're going to die if you don't take medicine, take some medicine. I'm not anti-medicine. I do not think that vaccines are a good idea. That there are a lot of things in some vaccines aren't even vegan, like flu vaccines. I don't get those, that they contain like egg white, I believe, is in the flu vaccine. But there's also things like formaldehyde and mercury, and a lot of other fucking chemicals that are in these vaccines that they use as like stabilizers or ways to make the product sanitary or maintain sanitation of the product. What's the most underrated barbell exercise? I think the standing overhead press. Like, that's my opinion. When it comes to more conventional lifts that your average gym goer is going to do now, people might argue nobody in the gym ever does Olympic lifts. Well, Olympic lifts are very complex. Most people aren't going to do them right. They're going to hurt themselves. They should start out with more basic stuff. But I think of all those exercises, the deadlift probably too. You could argue people don't deadlift as much, but I think people deadlift more than the overhead press standing. And bench press is probably the most popular. Squat, a lot of bros don't train their legs, but they train it very minimally. Or when they squat like shit. They go to like quarter rep. They'll do like a quarter depth squats. I've seen all sorts of stupid shit. But I think the standing overhead press is neglected a lot. It's a difficult exercise. You won't be able to press as much as you can bench, obviously, and you have to push this weight over your head. And people are afraid it's going to hurt their shoulders. But if you're using good form, it shouldn't hurt your shoulders unless you have some kind of genetic condition or medical condition that prevents you from doing such a thing. But if you're a normal, healthy person, you should be able to standing overhead press. That was at one time the feat of strength. I mean, look at a lot of these old strong men. A lot of them are doing one-arm overhead presses, for instance, because it was the feat of strength at one time. It was the test of strength, pushing something fucking heavy over your head. That was more important than a squat or a deadlift. So I think it's underrated, and it's one that I work on. I want to get stronger at because it's a very challenging exercise, not necessarily in the form capacity, but in just the fact that it's harder to push a lot of weight over your head. So get better at it. What are the most effective nutrients aside from protein and supplements to grow a beard fast? Man, this is the first time I'm trying to grow a beard, so I don't really know what to suggest. I hear biotin is good. Yeah. I mean, just get vitamin C's. Make sure you're getting enough of your vitamins. Eat healthy fats because fat is good for skin and hair health, cellular health. These are all things you should be doing. You should be eating a diet rich in phytonutrients and getting antioxidants and eat a diet that's going to offer you enough fat for your hormones and your skin and your hair. And make sure you're getting biotin somehow, even from a supplement if you need to. Those are some ways I believe you can probably help enhance your hair growth. People with higher DHT levels will grow a beard faster, though. That much I do know. People who have more trouble growing a beard, people like to mistake it. I've done a lot of reading on this. They want to mistake it that it's a testosterone thing. It's not a testosterone thing. It's more of a DHT thing. So it's your testosterone converting to DHT. Some people convert the testosterone to DHT at a higher rate, which also makes you more susceptible to baldness. So on the top of your head. So it's a trade-off, really. But that's really about the best advice I can give is be healthy, really. um, let's see here. Some things just move really quickly here. I might be missing some questions, but I'm just gonna move along. How much soy is too much soy, or else how Condor is asking, or else put how much soy we can eat. Does it exist a range of soy ingestion? That we don't really have a range that I'm aware of. We have studied ranges where we can see the effects on people who are a little more sensitive to soy. But I don't, from what I understand, you'd have to be smashing back a lot of fucking soy to really have some kind of a, potentially have some kind of an overload effect. You know, even in people who are have like a sensitivity to it, like those who are equal producers. If you're allergic to soy, just avoid it altogether. I mean, anecdotally speaking, I eat around 400 grams. I guess I'm looking at my meal plan right now. About 400 grams of soy at the moment per day, and I'm not having any problems. You know, and I've had days where I've had much higher than that, like around 800, and I've never had any problems. 800 grams, that is. But again, that's just anecdote. Maybe that would make an interesting video topic, but I have to do a little more research to see if there's anything I can find about that. Were I inspired, Charzar asks, was I inspired by Marcus, the golden one, in regards to my beard? I remember you saying that having a beard, a shaved face is more attractive to women. Have you changed your mind slightly? Yes, having a shaved face, I'm not changing my mind about that. That was some research. Having a shaved face to women is more sexually attractive. However, having a beard to women, it's considered more virile looking, like more imposing, dominant is the word. And since I, you know, already have a girl, I don't really give a shit about like trying to attract other women. So like, you know, I'm growing a beard out, really not because of Marcus, but really because I just kind of saw a lot of photographs of like Vikings and like, you know, from the television shows and movies and whatnot, and like, you know, people who are doing cosplay of that sort of thing. And these, a lot of medieval movies. I was watching Braveheart, and I just like thought, hey, you know, why not? I'll give it a go. And you know, I kind of like the look. Longer hair and a beard. So I'm actually growing my hair out too, or I'm going to try to. Don't know how long I'm going to let it go, but I'm going to see where it goes. I'm kind of just letting this see where it goes and how I feel about it, really. People are obsessed somehow with soy somehow being bad, yet people consume alcohol. Yeah, I know. And alcohol is actually proven by a number of pathways to fuck up testosterone. I'm going to do another video on that, actually. Do I ever do sprints? Sometimes. More often than not, I do like hit drills with heavy bag. So kicks and punches and things like that in combinations. Let's see here. Pony Chaser says AHA, American Heart Association, I believe that's what you're talking about, is not telling the truth about dairy, and they are in bed with Canadian dairy industry. Wouldn't be surprised. A lot of these, there's a lot of shady shit going on out there. That's why you got to look at the research at large. You know, not just something that's, you know, funded by one specific organization, but kind of look at the broad research, which is what I try to do. Whenever I'm making a video for you guys, I try to find everything I can on a given topic. The good, the bad, the ugly, if there is bad and ugly. And I try to like give you a comprehensive view on something, as opposed to what people would accuse, you know, of cherry picking. Some people of cherry picking. I don't like to do that. If there's a drawback, I'm going to let you know. Unless, of course, the drawback appears to only exist in animal research or something, and then it's not really relevant. You know, what happens in a rodent is not necessarily relevant to what happens in a person. And this is really the case with soy, for instance. And this has been discussed by numerous organizations, that rats just metabolize soy differently than humans do. So you can't really go by what how a rat's body responds to soy versus human. Do I stretch reflex on both bench and OHP? Or use a stretch reflex on both? I do, but there's only so far you can really stretch when you're using a barbell. I mean, you can only come down so far, you know, and get that stretch at the bottom. If you're using a dumbbell, it's a different story. But when I OHP, I do a standing barbell OHP. Now, I do flat benching with dumbbells and even some incline benching with dumbbells as well. And then I do get that stretch reflex at the bottom, obviously. and with biceps training, I do it with incline curls because I feel like that helps work the tendon, which gives it a little more strength during deadlifts. Because I do use a mixed grip. I have had an injury in one wrist, and I have to mix things up a little bit to be able to pull without causing the injury to exacerbate. Sometimes you got to work around with things that are going to be permanent. There's something you can really do about it. Like some things, for instance, like cartilage doesn't really ever heal fully. Or it's weakened when it finally does. Let's see here. Somebody's asked 3 big meals a day versus 5 to 6 small meals a day. There's been no difference. Meal timing is pretty much irrelevant as long as you get all your calories and macros in that you need for whatever your goals are and purposes are. Now, the only caveat to that might be like elite athletes. They might need a certain amount of a specific nutrient like carbohydrate feeding at a certain time before training to give them that competitive edge, being that they're elite and professional. But your average gym goer, your average person who just wants to be healthy, which is the majority of us, including myself, it's really irrelevant. You can have 2 meals a day, 1 big ass meal a day if you can sit down and can stomach all that. But you can do all of that, in as many meals as you want. There's really no. It really comes down to your schedule and convenience, and if you're an elite athlete, I guess. Thoughts on trap and hex bar deadlifts? I've never actually had a chance to do them. I don't have one at my gym. I hear that a location of my gym that's not exactly convenient for me does have one, but it's not one I've ever been to, and I've never tried it. But I know a lot of people, when they see one, they jump for joy. But I can't say I have any experience to share in that matter. Walking is now exercise considering how non-active majority of us are. This is true. Sadly enough, the government is basically begging people just to get even 30 minutes of walking in per day. That is fucking bad. You're sinking low when that is bad. I actually got a video coming up about the current state of fitness. There was a recent enough study, military study actually, and you're not going to be surprised, but you might be boggled by fucking how bad shit is. But it needs to be addressed. It needs to be publicized. It needs to make people need to hear about it, because you can't change a problem if people remain blind to it or don't know the significance of the problem. Greetings from California, says Red Sky. Awesome channel. What do you think of spray sunscreen? I mean, I don't really know what to say about. Like I said, I use a lotion-based sunscreen, but I guess if it works, and there aren't a lot of toxic chemicals in the sunscreen, like you want to keep away from, parabens and things like that. As long as and it's a vegan product, I don't see the problem with it. Blood Raven says vampire life. Actually, not going out in the sun a lot will help you with your anti-aging goals. To be honest, go out when it's a little more dim, or live in a very dim area, but still use sunscreen, because UV light can still get through. Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about not getting a lot of sun. You won't age as much, but you also probably won't have much of a life. There's some trade-off to it as well. But I mean, if you're legitimately just indoors a lot because you're working, then fair enough. I mean, you're being constructive. In other words, you have things you've got to do. If you're running a business or something, or you work a job that's indoors, you do what you got to do. How much water do I drink before a workout? I personally drink 16 ounces before a workout. I have another 16 ounces, sometimes up to 32 ounces during the workout. And then I'll have an additional 32 ounces precisely after my workout. I drink a hell of a lot of water around my workouts. And actually, in my Beast Mode by Science ebook, which I've linked below, I actually have a section on water and how much water you should be getting a day based on gender and based on activity level. So calorie restriction is interesting. Yeah, I mean, calorie restriction is shown to increase longevity. But here's the thing. If you want to gain muscle, you do need a surplus of calories to a degree, but you can still gain muscle slowly in a slight deficit. So I would say if you want to live on a calorie restricted diet to improve your aging and maybe improve your longevity, just restrict a little, like 20% below maintenance tops, maybe even 10%, or just ride maintenance and lift and be active, because you'll naturally fall into a deficit to some degree with that, because of how much you're going to consume from your activities. Those are ways you can help improve your longevity, because lifting improves longevity. It fights cancer. There's so many things you can do that are good for you that'll help you improve your quality of life for longer. And that is something that I try to make as a big point in this channel, is to get you guys to have a longer, more fulfilled life. Rotten Fuhrer says anti-gun laws are anti-defense laws. Actually, I want to do a video on this as well, on gun laws as well. I know it's off the topic of veganism, but it's a problem. It's a problem, you know. And with the recent shooting in Florida, I feel like it's a topic I should probably address. I have some very interesting information that I've uncovered about different generations, and I'll get to that. But I think I've got a theory on what the root cause is for all of these school massacres that we have, and it's a theory that a lot of far left are not going to like. But it has to do with the degeneration of society, the generation of the family unit, and just shitty parenting, really, when it comes down to it. And you know, there is an increase in mental health problems, but I can get to that in a video, because I have a lot of information that sort of brings me to this theory, and I think it'd be something to just talk about. But I don't know if it'll be the next video I do or one of the next videos I do, but it's on my list of things to do. Should I stop using 4chan? That's up to you. I don't use 4chan if you want to use 4chan, you know. Use Twitter if you want to use Twitter, Facebook if you want to use Facebook. You know, just try to get yourself offline a bit too, and go out there into the world without your mobile device and meet people. You know, I think there's a big problem with people not developing social skills because they're not getting out there and meeting people. You know, they're not practicing social skills. They're so busy on social media. It is like a prison. Let's see. Soy products actually, Eco Rider says soy products actually caused one of my cousins to have hormone therapy, as it was a massive reduction in testosterone levels. They advised him to no longer consume soy. Did they test in a controlled way to see that it was definitely soy? Did he have any existing allergies to soy? Is he an equal producer? You know, there's a lot of things to look at. Doctors will tend to jump on these bandwagons themselves. A lot of them aren't up in nutrition. They aren't even necessarily up in the latest research. I've had one doctor of mine years back tell me to stop taking amino acids. He asked me what kind of supplements I was using, and I mentioned that I was supplementing with amino acids, and he was like, I don't know what those are, but I don't think you need them because I don't know what they are. I was like, amino acids are the building blocks in proteins. And I, you know, this is the kind of stupid shit I hear come out of doctors' mouths. So, you know, I don't necessarily trust that. And there's enough research to show that most people aren't going to have a problem. And even equal producers don't have much of a, it's not a huge drop. I did a video on this. My second Paul Joseph Watson video talks about equal production in detail. So I recommend you check that out. Swires asks, how often should an intermediate lifter take deloads or whole weeks off? That's really, it depends. Some people will tell you never take a deload. There's not a whole lot of research on deloads, to be honest. There's some, but not a whole hell of a lot of it. I personally take one when I feel I need one, and sometimes that's about every 4 weeks. If I, you know, depending on your age too, and your recovery abilities, depending on how heavy you're going and how consistently heavy you're going and how much volume and everything else. There's a lot of factors to take into play. But if you feel that you genuinely need a deload because you feel like you're overtraining or you push your body so far that it needs a little bit of a breather, take a week. Either don't lift at all or go very light on your heavy exercises and like moderately to light on your accessory work. Or just don't even do the big lifts at all for a week. You just work on some, like, you know, fluff type work, some accessory work like curls, pull downs, what have you. Just don't go too hard. Just like give your body a bit of a break. But listen to your body. It will tell you if it needs a little break. But you don't really need much more than a week, maybe 2 weeks tops. Use it as a chance to go on vacation or something. Somebody says he's mentally disabled. I think they're talking about Sparage. There's something wrong with Sparage, I'm telling you. When is this collab with Isaac happening? If anybody has been watching Isaac's Facebook group or Facebook page, he actually announced that we're doing it now. We're actually working on it right now. Isaac's got to get the program to me. But there's actually two things coming up with Isaac. One is we're doing a collab where we're going to bash intersectional veganism. So basically, this SJW vegans, we're going to like fucking rip them apart. And then the second one's going to be a discussion or a debate I'm going to be on with Isaac on. I don't know if it's much of a debate or just more of a discussion. There might be some debating going on, but he wants me on board for this. I guess Richard wasn't available or something as a vegan bodybuilder or vegan lifter rather, because I don't even, I'm really doing a little more power work now than I ever was before. So I'm kind of a vegan lifter, I guess is more like I look at that. I'm not trying to get on stage or anything like that. But this guy apparently that we're gonna be talking to is a lifter, and he's considering going vegan, but he has a lot of questions and concerns and I guess points of contention, and that's what this is going to be about. So that's coming up as well. And Isaac has asked me for my availability for that, so that's coming up, and it's going to be a live situation. So look forward to that. I found a really cheap supplier for algae oil, which contains 1 gram of DHA per tablespoon, but only 30 milligrams of EPA. Do you think I can? I can a lot of EPA from ALA conversion rates. You'll get some, yeah. I mean, that'll be fine, but is it going to taste like shit? Hey, maybe it won't taste like shit. It might taste like grass. I don't know. I never tried an unflavored algae oil yet. All the ones I've had like a lemon lime flavor or something, so it's kind of masked anything that might be foul about it. Who is the target audience for your Beast Mode book, says Ask Rob K. Beast Mode by Science is more geared toward people who want to get as lean as possible, possibly even stage lean if they want to. People who want to get down to like 8-10% body fat, who want to be muscular. It's more of an aesthetics book. There is that strength element, but it's not the primary focus. It works. The Beast Mode by Science book works in phases. So there's a strength phase, and it cycles through. There's a strength phase. There's a high rep phase. There's a moderate rep phase. There's there's different phases. It goes on for weeks, actually months, actually. And there's a fat loss workout program that goes through free. It's a 12-week program as well in the book. It's a big book. It's a big ebook, and it's focused. It geared more towards your people who want to look good, feel good, and that sort of thing. It's more of an aesthetics book. Whereas my new one, Upgraded Man, is more for people who want to improve their athleticism. They want to get stronger, but they also want to get bigger and yoked. They want to look intimidating. They don't care so much about being ripped. That book's more about not getting fat, okay, but being basically like a warrior kind of thing. It's really for the people who want to have that fucking, when you walk into a room, you look more intimidating. Big neck, big traps, the big yoke in general, shoulders, upper back, that sort of thing. It's really what it's for, and also getting strong in your big lifts. It's a percentage-based program. I am Demon Wolf says, yeah, Atkins died from a heart attack. I knew it was something like that, but it's a high fat. It was a very high fat diet, and I don't recommend. See, I don't have a problem with cyclic keto, but I have a real issue with the effects of long-term regular keto because of what it can do to your hormones. That's one of the big things. It's not optimal. You also are missing on a lot of nutrients. See, if you cycle once a week, you can have a refeed, and you can include things like fruit. You can include things like carbohydrates that will help pump up some of those hormones that will decline naturally on a straight keto diet. Now, if you're an epileptic, keto diets are the way to enhance your quality of life. You've got to do what you got to do. But for your average person who just wants to find a sustainable weight loss diet, keto diet is not optimal. But cyclic keto is a good alternative. It's a fine alternative. It's not as good as, a diet that includes carbohydrates every day, but some people, they adhere better to it. And that once a week carb load is a way for them to get, through the doldrums of dieting a bit. They can include a bit of pasta, maybe a couple donuts and some cookies and shit like that, some candy on that day, that one day a week. What do I think about vegetarians? I think they're halfway vegan. I don't know what else to say. It's better than eating meat, I suppose, on some levels, but you're still contributing to the industries that commodify animals. And you're still contributing, maybe not in a direct way, but you're still contributing to the meat industry because those cows, those dairy cows, are eventually just going to be butchered when they've outlived their usefulness. So keep that in mind. You're still contributing to the meat industry. So vegetarians, I mean, from that ethical sort of perspective, aren't quite there yet, and they may not realize that. See, I was a vegetarian for the longest time, and then I realized that that I'm still causing the harm that I thought I wasn't causing. So I went vegan. That was in 2013. So now it's been 5 years. It'll be 5 years this like April or May. Let's see here. I've had a lot of vegetarians get pissed off about vegans. It's pretty funny. Let's see here. Trying to move on to the next. There's so many. It's cycling through so fast. Let's see here. Most underrated machine. I'm not a big fan of machines. Some of the hammer strengths are good, like the T-bar row hammer strength's a good machine. I've used that a number of times. I don't really use a lot of machines. A lot of my current programs don't really involve a lot of machines. There might be a little cable work here and there, but mostly it's not. I'm not a big fan of machines, like, basing things around machines, unless you need to. Like, if you're the kind of person who can't quite dip yet and you're trying to build your dip strength up, you need to work on dipping, yeah, but you might find that some machine dips or some assisted dips will help you get there. So, Blood Raven says, what's my opinion on caffeine? It can affect your sleep negatively. But if you don't really have a problem with that, like myself, I haven't seen any evidence to show that caffeine at about 600 to 800 milligrams a day is of detriment to people. And considering an average cup of coffee is about 1 to 200 milligrams of caffeine, you have a little wiggle room there, Do I ever lift off? Do you ever press off pins? No, I don't do any pin pressing at the moment. I've done, I've used the safeties to do rack pulls before, but I haven't rack pulled in a long time. Currently, I use a bench block. It's like a yoga block. It's been cut with various different grooves of different lengths. Basically, it mimics board pressing. So you have like a 2-inch cut, a 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch cut, and then you can just put that on the bar and change it out yourself really quickly because it presses on the bar, and it will help you. You can do various board-style bench presses without an actual set of boards or a partner, basically. Who would win a fight, you or Vegan Gains? I don't know. I don't have any intentions on fighting Richard. I mean, and what I know from fighting, from doing fighting, from fighting in a local circuit for a while when I was doing full contact Kyokushin tournaments. It depends on the day. There are fights I've lost. There are fights I've won. There are fights against people that I lost one day and then won a different day. There are people who I would fight in sparring and I've lost to, and just fun sparring, and then I beat them in a tournament. It really, it depends on the day. It depends on how you feel. It depends on your training. It depends on their training, their day. And yes, there's an element of skill too, but when it comes to people who are more evenly matched, it can really depend on the day, and how prepared you were, and your conditioning, your athletic conditioning as well is really important. Now, it's a no-brainer that if you are a avid, let's say, kickboxer, for instance, and you go up against like a fucking beginner or a street thug, more than likely you're going to crush the person. My sensei used to make a joke. He said, even white belts, for instance, in Kyokushin karate, have an edge over your average untrained street punk, and there's some truth to that. Now it doesn't mean that on the street, because there's no rules. Knives can be pulled, guns can be pulled. I'm not saying go out and get yourself in street fights, but that's how fighting really works. And if you're fighting people who are a little more professional and understand the fight, now, as I understand, Richard's practiced some Muay Thai, practiced some grappling. I don't know to what extent. If we're evenly matched, it would probably depend on the day. It's the same thing with the Golden One. A lot of people want to see me fight the Golden One, and I've told Marcus, hey, viewers want to see us spar, and if we're ever in the same place, which might eventually happen depending on where I might be living at some point in time, or where he might be visiting, we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to film it. So it's the same thing. Whether Golden One would win or I would win, it doesn't. I don't know. You know, I'm really going into it for fun. It's not, I don't give a shit who fucking wins, to be honest. And you can learn from someone. You have to understand this too. When you lose a fight, you learn a lot. Just as I feel like you learn more when you lose a fight because you learn where you fucked up. You know, you learn where you need to train more. You learn where your weaknesses are. So, Vegan Gains complains too much about pointless things. I don't know. I like Richard's videos a lot of the time. I don't really watch a lot of YouTube, but I do watch Richard's channel pretty consistently, and a couple other channels consistently when I do watch YouTube. Does your vegan diet help or hurt your intestinal process? Do you ever get constipated or upset stomach, diarrhea? Also, higher or lower energy? Actually, my energy's been consistently higher since I went vegan. It was high when I was vegetarian. It was higher when I went vegan. My sex drive got better. Again, better as a vegetarian, than even better as a vegan. And digestion-wise, I haven't had problems with digesting food. When I used to eat dairy, and before that, when I used to eat meat, way back before 2002, I used to have my doctor thought I had irritable bowel syndrome because I would get so sick after eating a meal. But when I dropped the meat, the irritable bowel syndrome cleared up, but I still would get upset stomach from dairy foods a lot. When I went vegan, I haven't had one of those kinds of problems. I don't even, it's been so long. I remember they used to be horrible, but I don't remember what they were like anymore because all it is now is a memory of it being just fucking bad, but not specifically how bad it felt, you know, what to compare it to. So I think it's helped a lot. The higher fiber, the healthier food choices, has helped a lot. Yeah. Why do you want to isolate yourself from social media so much? I just don't get anything from it, I guess. I tried Twitter for a while at one time, and I deleted the Twitter channel, the Twitter feed. This is years and years and years back, back when I was still a vegetarian, I believe. And I deleted it because I just didn't like to shorten my stuff down to a short amount of words, and I just got bored with it. I just didn't care for it. I don't know. I have so many things I've got to do. I don't have time for social media so much. I mean, I do YouTube for you guys, and I do Facebook to some degree, but even then, it's once a day. I don't know. I just rather be out doing shit productively than on social media. Anyway, I'm going to answer one more question because the time and also the computer's battery is going to kick out. Have I considered or changed my position on Dr. Nun Amin-Ral's abstemious I'm trying to read this, abstemious dietary regimen, the Amin protocol? No, I've not changed my mind on that. And a lot of the comments I've received are absurd. I stand by what I've said. Now, maybe for longevity is one thing, but it certainly is not a diet for anybody who's interested in physical fitness. And I've showed a body of research for why that is. Okay, so one more question. Doug James asks, what do I do for cardio? I do a lot of HIIT drills on the heavy bag. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. The next Q&A is going to be on Sunday, March 4th. That's the public Q&A. That is, there will be private Q&As for Patreon. So go hook up on my Patreon. It's only a couple bucks, and you can get on to my private Q&As that happen every other week, the off weeks of the public Q&As. And they're a lot more raw and uncensored. People are asking some pretty tough political questions and things like that. It's happened quite a bit. So a lot more raw, a lot more uncensored, and a lot more intimate sized crowd. So check that out. Check out my my ebooks down below. I got a limited time President's Day sale going on right now. So definitely check that out and get on that if you're interested. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next video, and I'll see you guys in the next Q&A. Take care.